Welcome back to the Barebow Project, everyone. This episode is full of a ton of good stuff. Before we get into it, this episode with Jack Williams from the United States Olympic team, former resident athlete, Team Hoyt shooter, had some big input into the Formula XD. It's just a great episode. You're going to enjoy it. Before we jump into that, coming up, next episode, Miss Maggie Brensinger. Pretty much all of you that know me or listen to me know of her. She's finally getting on the podcast. Funny stuff. But anyways, with that being said, 2 seminars coming up. We got one in December at Texas Archery. It's an advanced barebow seminar. I'm going down there with Scott Booth and friends down there. It's going to be a 2-day seminar. Check that out. Phoenix, Arizona, coming up in March. Check that out. I'm also doing an abbreviated version in November. Go on the website. You can sign up for that. It's like $75. It's the stuff that I can talk about online and still there's a lot of good carryover there. There's a lot that needs to in-person coaching without a doubt is the best. There's no question. But I just want to throw it out there. Go check that out. Enjoy this episode. We'll see you tomorrow night if you happen to jump in and check the live feed out. Remember, you can catch the live version of the podcast if you just subscribe to either YouTube or Facebook in our subscribers group, because that's where they're always at. All right. And if you don't catch it live, you're going to miss it, because then you won't get to listen to it again until it's uploaded. Anyway, all right. Peace.
I think then anybody I can put a name to promote our sport.
The archer who owns all the world records, John Demmer III.
You know, the more difficult a thing is, the more important the mental game becomes.
I didn't eat any supper yet either. How about you guys? Did you guys eat yet?
I didn't eat
you know,
got some crunch berries.
Grayson Partlow.
It's like me taking 3 or 4 years off your eyes just because I weakened that prescription in the shooting eye.
And don't put everything into my shot that I should, that I get a lot of drop on those heavy arrows. It's dropping all the way down. He said, well, you might want to think about going to a lighter arrow in the string walking. And then that's what got that started. So.
Go live right here real quick. So my last night, my wife and I were at a fundraiser, and I come home. She texts, she was like, hey, it smells like something really bad. Something's burning, blah, blah, blah. Like my youngest is 12. And she's like, oh, hold on, I have to mute this live video here real quick. My wife and I were at a oh, there it goes. All right, there we go. And so my wife comes home and there's a skunk. I come home. A second. She texts. She was like, "Hey, it smells like something." Hear really that bad background noise? My youngest is 12, and she goes. Let me mute that real quick. Long story short, my dog got sprayed by a skunk last night. I literally spent the entire day like cleaning and trying to get the dog not smelling. Oh my gosh, dude. I can't get it out of my nose. I'm like all stuffed up now. It's been, I don't know if you've ever dealt with that, but it's been all day. Yeah, it's been a process.
Sprayed by a skunk.
What's that?
I've never been sprayed by a skunker, luckily.
Oh my gosh, it was so bad. I mean, it was really bad. It smells so, and the whole town, I swear, like our whole town has been overrun by skunks. I don't know what's going on. One night I went out and there was like 3 of them running around the alley, and it's the craziest thing. They're such a weird species, but long story short, she smelled so bad. So that's what I spent my day pretty much doing, was cleaning up after that nonsense. I washed her twice with like some random solution. Yeah, it's been a process, to say the least. So, all right, people. Well, we are We are currently live right now on both YouTube and Facebook. Fingers crossed. It looks like Facebook is lagged really bad, and I don't know why. Let me get off the see what's going on. Hopefully that comes through. Jack, how are you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
Yeah, doing good. Getting ready to go out to Korea next week, so it's good to be back in the States for a little bit.
So, I guess you're going to Korea. Are you also going to Santiago when that rolls around?
Yep. That's Thanksgiving week, unfortunately, for holidayness wise. So that's a bit of a bummer, but we're going down there to get our spots for the Pan Am Games, which is
Right.
where we could qualify Olympic spots eventually. So that's step one. But to get ready for that, we're going over to Korea just for a training camp. No competition, just go shoot with them. Like,
Oh, nice. Okay. Have you done that before?
no, this is we don't normally go out and do this type of training or stuff like that. So it's a really good opportunity.
Oh, absolutely it is. I had no idea that that was something that you guys were doing at all. I think it makes sense. It makes complete sense for sure. I just I had to refresh the Facebook feed here to see if I can get that thing to come up on my computer for some reason, because I can't see y'all's comments if you post them up. So please be patient with me. Actually, let me close that out and come back to it and see if I can open this back up. YouTube that typically isn't as active, but Facebook definitely gets active with the people. Let me move some screens around. It's the nice thing also about being live and pre-recording and then editing, because I can
You
go
can
back
see
and
everything.
edit, yeah, that, and I can go back and edit everything when I need to and all that stuff, because once the live feed's done, it's fun recording it live because you kind of get, I don't know, it's more like a show, you know what I mean? Like, it's a podcast, yeah, but people love the interaction, and we're a bunch of goofballs, so like they get a kick out of that. But it's still definitely, there it is. All right, we'll go there. Let's make sure I'm still live. Should be. I did close it, but it should not have ended live. There it is. Okay, perfect. Last night, that gets us every time. I pull up the live feed and it's still going. No,
Yeah.
shut the live feed down. This is driving me insane, my friend. My last night, let's see. Oh yeah, it did. It shut the live feed down. Let me try that again. I'm gonna try to go live on Facebook again. So when I close the window, it shut it down. I'm gonna try one more time. So hold on, Jack. All right. I want to get it right so people can watch on both ends. So I'm gonna stop this live feed and try one more time. I've never done dual live feeds before. This is a first, so this might explain why
it's not been done.
That's quite the possibility, or just I wasn't patient enough and needed to wait it out a little bit longer. Let's try this again. Episode.
Are your delay times the same? Because I think you can program that delay. Like, I want.
Yeah, they're pretty. I'm not really worried. Honestly, I could give two shits about the live feed. The only reason I watch the live feeds is for questions.
Yeah.
That is it. All right. So I'm going to do one at a time is what I'm going to do. Shall we do here? Barebow project. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start that live feed a while. Let's see if we are preparing shows that we are live. We're good there. All right, be patient, everyone. We're gonna try this again. Just having some live feed issues, trying to go connect. All right, be patient, everyone. There it is again. See how that works? All right, there's one. All right, now where should we go? Be able to do the second one. Yeah, it's not letting me do. All right, so it looks like it's a Facebook live feed only, everyone. So YouTube is not going to happen this evening. For some reason, I'm having some issues. We are live again. We're gonna let some people kind of get on this live feed. Sorry about the confusion. I did delete that other one just the beginning there where I was trying to get things squared away. This is your live recording of episode 70 with Olympian, my fellow Hoyt teammate and resident athlete. Are you currently considered a resident athlete right now, even though you're not living at the training center?
Technically, no. I
Yeah.
technically did beat the resident athlete program, but I still train there full time.
Yeah,
So
right.
I come up to Orange County on the weekends, but
Yeah.
I'm still down there in the group every day. It's just more of a matter of title. So when I want to take my own time off, I can.
Yeah,
Like,
I get it.
yeah.
So yeah, we're here with Jack Williams. What's up, man? I'm glad you came on. We sort of got an introduction at Lancaster last year. We're BSing about Hoyt and the Exceed and Barebow and just playing around. I was you were like, just drawing a Barebow that was a 27 with XLs. You're like, holy crap. And I had the libs cranked all the way out. And you're like, yeah, that's not right where I would want it. I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. But, then at NFA, we got to mess around a little bit and got to shoot my bow and you got to play around with some Barebow and we started talking and then we started bouncing things off of each other with tune. And now we have the XD to talk about. We'll talk about that a little bit, tonight. But first, can you just tell people, I mean, we know who you are, but where you come from. Let's talk about like your start in the sport, because that's something that's unknown to me, and I follow the Olympic side of the sport quite a bit, and I just know a little bit of a passive background about you. So can you just give me the rundown? Like, how did you get into archery and end up where you're at? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I used to be a competitive fencer through my earlier years of trying sports as a kid. Probably about like 9 or 10 until I was 13, doing just youth fencing, starting to go to regional tournaments, moving out to the state level, and then doing like some national level and getting there. And then at the archery or at the fencing studio, they had a little try archery class. And that try archery class was where I really tried like just green plastic stick bow, kind of that level of shooting, let's say. And then that basically turned into getting my own bow for my 13th birthday and going through and then just both and doing both for fun and then still competing with fencing. And then it came down to one of the years where there was a nationals for archery in Ohio. There was also nationals that year for fencing, and they were about a week apart. And it was kind of like, we're not going to Ohio twice a week apart for two different sports. Like, no, pick one. And at that time, I was like kind of him and haw in between, like, well, I've been competing with fencing, and do I want to keep doing that, or try something new? And then, like, I finally pulled the trigger and said, no, I'm going to go for archery this time. And I shot that as a cub at nationals.
Oh, no
and
way.
kind of just tried it for fun. And then sure enough, I was pretty good at it. And that was like, I knew it was pretty good because I was doing the state stuff and bowman and cub, and it could not terrible, but I'm like, yeah, okay, like it's just fun, go to Joad class. And then from that on, I'm like, no, I want to keep doing that. And then fencing fell off, and then it's been archery ever since.
Huh. That's crazy. So what club did you start at? Where did you start all that at?
Yeah, so the fencing studio is called Griffin Fencing, and they now offer archery classes and fencing still to this day. And they just, they're a good place to start out, and then moved to the local archery range here that was Orange County Archery and High Tech Archery. Did both of those, both of their Joads actually. I was like double dipping Joads for a little bit, and Joy Lee Archery
Okay.
was kind of my introduction to more of a serious club with Coach Eric Tollefson. He was my coach for a good bit, one-on-one level, kind of helped me transition to more serious archery. And then from there, started working with doing privates with Coach Lee. And then Coach Lee said, when I was 16, like, you should come down to the center. Like, we need you. And at that time, I was like, no, like, it's too early. And then some time went by, and we realized, like, no, if I wanted to make Tokyo team, like, I needed to.
Yeah.
And then I moved out. I graduated early, actually, in order to move down there and commit full time to archery, worry about school.
Really?
And then, yeah, I graduated at 17, halfway through my junior year. And then from there, just been doing archery ever since and getting better, traveling the world and, seeing where it can take me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool. So I'm going to go back a little bit. The whole fencing archery thing. I don't know. I did a seminar for Lee Taylor at Lionheart Academy. They are a fencing academy.
Yeah.
But Lee was in archery, and then I guess they combined their resources. So shout out to Lee and that whole Matt, the Ricacho boys, and all those guys out in San Diego, because like they go together. There's this weird relationship between the two. Maybe it's a mindset thing. I don't know squat about fencing. When I've been out there twice now, and like I walk in and like I see all this stuff, and like it's so cool. I don't know squat about it, but it's neat, and it just seems to work. And it's not a surprise to hear that you got your start that way from a competitive side of things. And does fencing, and I'm not going to make this podcast about fencing, but does fencing have a similar national setup like archery does? Like, is it nationally competitive? Is there teams? Is it USA type stuff? Like, is it all the same?
They have the same stuff. It's very different though. They have a lot different of a ranking system that kind of goes through.
Okay.
I never really got to experience the full, like, what is like a USAT tournament kind of.
Right. Okay.
If you were to ask me, I'd say they have a lot more regional stuff than archery does, which is probably helping them a lot. Like, we would go over to Colorado, Arizona, and do like regional tournaments that were equally competitive, like as a youth nowadays. But then they have the national tournaments, and I think a lot of those actually are invite only. Like, you have to be at a certain tier to even show up.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like, it's just totally different. But yeah, they still have the same general national tournaments with the like tier down and then a tier down for each division that you kind of want to support at those tournaments.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you left one sport kind of on the verge of getting into that, and then entered into archery, and then boom, there was a quick. I remember when you kind of really first got on that national scene, and watching you shoot, and now seeing you. Geez, we are just talking before we went live. He's working on college classes and stuff like that. So it's crazy to me. You were just a kid, a teenager then, and how things have changed. But no, it's. And did you always live out there, or you're in California, right? You're northern. Okay.
Orange County, which is about 2 hours north of San Diego, and Chula Vista, where the center is. So it wasn't new for me, which definitely helped me want to do that. It would have been different cross country at 17, but a couple hours south, and then like, I could come up and see everybody on the weekend. Like, that helped.
Right.
Wanting me to do that change.
Yeah. It's a huge commitment for a teenager to be like, hey, I'm going to give this up, graduate early, and then essentially train full time at the training center. Now, if you guys, for the Barebow people who end up listening to this podcast or come on live, and you know, if you get a chance to go to Chula Vista, you get to go shoot there, please go do it. It is an amazing facility. And I guess that's a good segue into like discussing like what does your training look like as a whether you're an Olympic team member, a resident athlete, just in general, like at competing at that international level. How many arrows are you shooting? I'm not asking you to give away the trade secrets. I'm asking you to like paint the picture, because I don't, and the reason we're having this discussion, Jack, is I don't think the vast majority, and I'm talking like 95+% of Barebow people understand what it takes to be that truly competitive.
Yeah.
And from an Olympic standpoint, from someone who represents us on an international level, I want it to come from you. Like, what does it look like for you to train to shoot at the level that you shoot at?
So it definitely takes varying levels depending on your time in your development. For one, like if you're still working out kinks in your form and technique, you're going to have to shoot more repetition and kind of get there, versus if you're trying to then solidify your form and then get more of a score really high, or then if you're trying to more practice for like upcoming tournaments and then like a back to back kind of deal. It all changes. I did my fair share of 400 arrow days and stuff like that back when I was still starting out. So right now, um, the RA program, because it's a development program, they're scheduled to be at that, like kind of around that 250 to 350 arrows, depending on the day and how much scoring versus how much repetition we want. And then a couple of days of super heavy, like 400 to 500 arrows a day. In there with recovery and all that in there. So they kind of, the RAs, like I talked about earlier, how I'm not technically an RA.
Right.
Still improving, so they're at the that level where they're developing. I'm there training with them, but I do about 200 arrows, like 150 to 200 arrows every day,
Uh-huh.
and I try that number consistently day after day. And then that, like overall, I'm just trying to keep technique going and like don't lose anything, don't get bad habits, and then push my form and the scores super high.
Do you feel like extended periods, like even do you feel a difference in, you probably haven't gone 2 weeks without shooting a bow in a very long time, but
No, yeah.
do you feel like there's like there's loss there, and you're like you have to build back up
Yeah.
really quick?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. Like in the like the heart of competition, definitely not like any time to break.
Right.
But we finished our competition. Like technically we're still going because we have the
Right.
one in November, but that's such a long break that you can almost count that in the next year already.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's basically, it's like the start of indoor season, but you're still shooting outdoor for one tournament, one major tournament at that. Then we're talking about Santiago, Chile, for everyone who listens to this.
yeah, so almost like, I already took my break. I did take a few weeks off of, took almost a good solid week of not shooting at all, and then another week in there where it was like barely anything. So that was nice just to recover and rest. And now it's like time to slowly start kind of that maintain, and then right before
Ramp up.
really it's a more of a ramp up. Really pushing harder, get everything tuned properly, get everything ironed out. So
Yeah, that's, I guess I was wondering how much time you guys actually get to take off. I guess this time of the year is probably the time of the year that it's going to happen. But how long does it take before you get that itch? You're like, I got to shoot.
yeah, I mean, I want to shoot all the time, and even when I'm not shooting, I'm thinking about shooting. So it's like, even when
Interesting.
like when I come back to being able to like finally shoot again, it doesn't really fall off. Like my endurance will fall off a ton, but like my form, my technique and stuff like that doesn't really fall off.
That's good. And
So
is there a training regiment that comes from either Coach Lee or from strength and conditioning that you have to keep up with? Is that something that they implement as well?
It's all personal preference. Like, I don't personally believe in strength and conditioning for archery. I'd rather just shoot more archery than
Sure.
work out something.
Yeah.
I think it kind of could throw off the balance. But if you are a person who feels like it helps you, then by all means, at the center, they're willing to help you there. But a lot of it is the program that Coach Lee makes, and that kind of that changes throughout the year and balances a good bit of,
Sure.
just pound out arrows and not really care, and then a time to really care about form and stuff like that, and then a time where it's like, I don't care, just score. Like, so it's kind of like a good balance between everything.
Okay, so talk me through, like, if you said like 150 to 200 arrows a day, right?
Yeah.
Are you scoring every day, or is there implementation of scoring throughout that programmed week?
There'll be where, like, we have a set like 72 arrows, 2 rounds of practice, 72 arrows, and then lunch, something like that.
Right.
There'll be other days where we're doing like a variation of a scoring game. We call it gold game, where
Yeah.
if you hit this 1 point, if you miss the gold is 0, and if you're 8 or less, it's a minus point. So it just kind of changes it up. But I personally score almost every arrow I shoot. Like,
Okay.
if not paper, just mentally, like, I'm always thinking like, oh, that was a 58, that was a 57, that
Yeah.
one was a 52, like, what happened, and then come back and kind of always be working on that. Just every arrow I shoot.
Is that part of your mental preparation a little bit? Is that you training yourself to think about, okay, that's what I shot, but I want to get, I'm pursuing this perfect arrow in the next one. Is it just is that what you're doing when you're competing?
It's definitely to try to get used to a lot of people like get caught up when they're shooting good and then they start shooting bad right away.
Yeah, right.
Used to shooting good all the time, then it's easier to keep shooting good in competition. So, like, instead of just like getting lost in the arrows and everything magically gets better, like, no, you're focusing on it getting better, and then that will carry through into competition.
Yeah, very
Hope.
good. Yeah, I can see the benefit there for sure. Do you think that the idea of scoring more than not is something that everyone should do?
I think it depends on what you want out of archery as a whole. Like, if you're a backyard archer who just likes shooting,
Yeah, right. I'm talking like people who are really trying to improve. I
yeah,
guess it's that notion of, like, you have to learn to be okay with the score no matter what the score is, but you can't be. And that's probably one of the things that hurts some people is they don't score enough. They don't shoot enough tournaments. In the Barebow side of things, I think that's something that we see.
that's it's a lot of, you see that because the Barebow division will have, heck, maybe a few hundred people at some national tournament.
Yeah.
Be like 5 at others, and it's like, where'd everybody go?
Yeah, yeah, that's a true story. I'm in all fairness though, Jack, we're still a relatively young division.
Yeah.
And to pull the numbers that we do is impressive. Standalone, it's impressive to see the numbers that are coming out. And then you look at the bigger tournaments, you look at NFAA indoor, you look at Vegas indoor, you look at Lancaster Archery Classic. Like, we pull some big numbers to those bigger events, and it's only a matter of time. Like, for the USATs, for example, you saw Barebow for the first time at USAT this year. Numbers were 10% roughly of most of those events. Barebow compromised like 10% of total entrants. So that's not amazing, but it's also the first year. And I've said it before, those numbers are going to continue to climb. I think you're going to see more and more. And the reason I'm asking some sort of like very direct and training oriented mental game, we'll probably get into that a little bit, but I'm asking those questions because I think you're going to see a transformation of Barebow people taking the approach that you, as one of our national athletes, they're taking more of a serious approach to. How do I get better? What are some of these other people doing? It doesn't matter whether you shoot Olympic and I shoot Barebow. That doesn't matter. It's the approach to the training and the mindset that goes with it. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the podcast. It's because I don't think people understand the commitment that it takes to shoot at such a high level. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but in regards to that, so like mental game wise, and we talked about having some some mental management conversation. What are some of the things that maybe really has helped you throughout your relatively new career? And what are the things you're constantly working on to improve your mental game within the international competition?
Yeah. Something that I like to do is learn something from each event. And whatever it is, good or bad, like if that event went good or bad, even like why did that event go the way it did?
Yeah.
Whether it be a round or second round, or I almost won it. Like it's coming back and say, where did I succeed? Where did I fail? And then what can I do to get that better at every event? So as I keep adding to this list of stuff that I've done, it's kind of keeps the momentum going for the next one. Like the next one will be better. And then was the next one better? Yes, no. If not, why? Okay, the next one will be better. And just roll through the events because I have so many events under my belt now.
Right. Yeah. And there's probably, I know I did a podcast with Paige Pierce a few weeks ago for another endeavor that I'm working on. And she said, and I imagine this is probably similar to you in some ways. It's really hard training sometimes in between events because you literally go from event to event to event, and meanwhile we're having this conversation talking about Barebow people not shooting enough tournaments. They need to get out and shoot more tournaments if you want to get better. And so there's definitely something to be said for the training in the off season, because you might not get that opportunity to work on it during the tournament season as much as you would like. So, the mental commitment to those changes, or the mental commitment to learning from that previous event, what do I want to improve on for the next one? That's where, I guess, do you do visualization? Are you doing, what kind of things are you doing when you can't shoot, or where does your brain go? I'm genuinely curious.
It depends on how tight of a turnaround it is. Sometimes we fly straight to the event. And a very typical one that we do is Nemes, then Lancaster straight away.
Right.
You go there. So in that little bit, maybe take a day or two of not thinking about archery at all, because a big tournament is way more
Stressful.
hard.
Stressful.
You might oh, it was only 72 arrows for score, and 2 practice ends. So what? I only shot 90 arrows, but it's yeah, but those 90 arrows feel a lot harder.
Yeah, I bet.
So
Yeah,
it's almost
compared to even shooting a local tournament, or I don't know how many local tournaments you actually shoot nowadays, but or a local 50 meter in San Diego or California, or maybe even a USAT in some ways. It's probably USAT's more of a training environment than it is anything else for you guys. You know what I mean?
It is. It has gotten to that point where the stressfulness of the tournament at those levels is almost non-existent now. I don't even do local tournaments anymore, really, because there's no time.
Yeah, I believe it.
Or right before or right after an event, and it's I'm not gonna stress myself to go to a local tournament back to back to a World Cup. No. But if I do, it's all fun at those things. Something that I did at NFAA indoor was I shot comp.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what in the world is he doing?
Yeah, heck, I only dropped 1, and I was tied for 17th in the pros. So
I know.
It's
I know.
So it's all just fun for me at that point. To some people, that tournament would be the huge tournament of the year for them.
Right.
But for me, it's yeah, I'll go and shoot compound just for fun, something different.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think it's good. Do you feel like Olympic recurve kind of, even with compound, the transformation for you to shoot compound for that one tournament, still being in the top 20, do you think that all of the stuff that you've learned with Olympic recurve really makes shooting compound a lot easier?
Absolutely. Like it's a matter of, it just still took a lot of effort and a lot of skill to
Sure. Yeah.
that, and it took me a good amount of time actually to kind of be like, okay, I need to shoot it like this instead of like this. And
Yeah.
you know, tuning is a very big thing in compound, so it's like getting all that um, dialed in. But then it's still the same fundamentals at the end of the day. Brace the bow, let go consistently, are the two things that kind of like in all three barebow, Olympic, and compound. It's you brace the bow, you anchor consistently, and then it's whether you let go when it clicks, you let go when you're aiming in the right spot for barebow, and it just
Right.
flips, or you're aiming in the right spot and you press the trigger. Like
Yeah.
it's as long as it breaks the same direction, it's clean, it'll be a good shot.
Yeah. Barebow people have a tendency to really complicate things. I'm not gonna lie. I think what you just said is super crucial for people. That if there's anything anybody takes from this podcast, brace the bow, let go consistently. That's literally it. I mean, it's if you want to really put it in its most basic terms for all of archery, but barebow especially, brace the bow, let go consistently. Find the way to make that happen. Sure, in Olympic, the clicker does have a huge role in the consistency, but it's not to say, I mean, we see people, we just saw, I don't know how much you pay attention to barebow scores and whatnot, but Oliver Hicks, they just posted, he bested Demmer's world record by 1 point, shot a 673 at 15 years old. That just came out today. So like that's a smoking 72 arrow 50-meter round, especially for a kid. So but at the same time, and I do say this frequently about some of the younger generation, you don't have kids, you don't have necessarily jobs in some cases, you don't have bills, you don't have all those other responsibilities to weigh you down. And I think I know Dick Tone always said, like, straighten up your affairs, have all of your things in order. And that's one of those things where, like, these younger kids who have the time and dedication to train, they deserve every accolade that they get, but they don't have all those other things weighing on them. As you have gone through, I'm curious, as you have gone through this sport now, you're getting older, you have to start, you're going to school full time, I assume. Is it full time, part time?
Part time whenever I want to. So I'm taking 2 classes.
So responsibilities, like, are you seeing like more and more stuff is starting to take over? And is there a juggling match happening, or not quite yet? You haven't gotten to that point?
Unfortunately, the thing with archery as a whole right now is there's not really any way to rely on it.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
at all. There's even at the highest level, it's not enough to have a family, have a house, all that stuff. So it's how do you supplement that, whether it's being an RA where you don't make much but you don't spend much if you don't want to, like it's you live and eat for free, stuff like that. So that's a huge benefit to that side of the world in the way of what it takes to be an Olympian. It's more how it's even possible for a lot of people.
Right.
But it's all about, like, I'm starting to do some coaching right now on the side, and just
Good.
just a little bit of extra income and just help for other people and kind of grow the sport in its own way. And so it's little things like that that don't really take away much time because I'm doing it on my free time anyways.
Right.
So of course, if I went all in, I could probably make a good living, build my own training studio and have a whole club and all that, but then there's no time for anything else.
No, there's not.
So then it's like, so it's a balancing point of,
Oh yeah.
just a couple of kids on the side for coaching whenever they want, a couple classes every few semesters, like whenever, like just do it to still have a base and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good. I think you're going down the right road, but you're 100% right. Like, once you start coaching and helping others, then you feel like an obligation to continue to do that for sure. It 100% weighs on your ability to train properly. Like if as a coach, like if you could just focus on coaching, that's great. If you are a competitor at heart and you're trying to coach at the same time, it 100% has an effect. I don't care what anybody says. And for those who are able to coach and still shoot at a decently high level, shout out to those people. There's a few people in the Barebow world that are doing it right now. There's others. There's other guys that are shooting Olympic recurve. There's the same names that you see in the top 20 every year. And I know some of those guys are coaching and running clubs and running tournaments, and like that stuff all definitely plays a role, for sure. But no, that's good conversation, and I'm glad that you kind of enlightened people to that point. And I think it also paints a picture for people to what to expect. Again, that's not an Olympic or a Barebow thing. That's an archery thing. If your place in the sport is as a coach, understand that it's going to have an effect, and vice versa. And I think another important thing or discussion, which we don't really have to get into, but like for you to compete and continue to, it costs a lot of money to compete and on the international level. And in the US, it just doesn't support. And I'm not talking down on the way things are set up, but like you're going to Korea to shoot very soon. They definitely have a different program to support their athletes. Do you think that the US will ever get to that point?
I think a lot has to happen. I don't unwillingness to make it happen. I think it just needs to be steps need to be done in the right direction. We need to make this first a sport, like a real sport that people think of. Like, yes, it's technically an Olympic sport.
Sure.
But when you think of a sport, you think of something either you can do like in high school, stuff like that, or colleges that you watch on ESPN and they have huge stadiums full of people for football and soccer or baseball, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or national level with national teams that all come together and compete in tournaments like this, everything that leads up to the Super Bowl, everything that leads up to,
I see what you're saying.
the like all those levels of tournaments that they have in other stuff.
Yeah.
Like whether it be the World Series or the Super Bowl or whatever, every sport has their own version nationally.
Sure.
And regionally, then you have your team you cheer for, and by you paying tickets to go see that team or whatever, or buying the subscription to the pay-per-view, whatever, like that money system that then they can pay deeper or more at the top or whatever it may be. And I think if we were able to support a higher number at the top, all really, like if you could have the top 8 people at least in every division, guy and girl, Barebow, compact, and girls, like if you could have that many people that can just do archery and make an actual living, that even if they don't win anything, they have enough money to have maybe more basic house, car. They wouldn't have to supplement it with a job or a full-time commitment somewhere else. And then, like, I think we'd then from there see a level of competition amongst everybody that was unseen right now.
Yep.
And then that level of competition can be monetized with ads and TV's subscriptions or ESPN or whatever. Like that type of stuff can then be even more, and then it goes from there.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it. I can tell that you guys have had that conversation, or you've had that conversation with people before, because Korea is definitely known as a powerhouse within the Olympic recurve archery world in general. Let's just put it that way. And they're definitely they definitely have a different approach. But that is what you said. Archery to them is without a doubt a sport. It's a lifelong commitment. In America, it's not treated that way. It's treated as a pastime or a hobby. And
it's level, like to win a World Cup, which second to the Olympics, World Championships, and then a World Cup. It's maybe after your contingencies and all that, like $10,000.
Yeah.
Which is great. Don't get me wrong; it's a great amount of money for the archery world. But if you think about how much a professional golfer wins a PGA event,
Yeah.
like it's a
Oh,
different because of all the other underlying things that they have supporting it. You know, you have several million people watching the golf tournament.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
different.
Well, and you have just about every major public school we'll go with has a golf team. Every college has a golf team. Not every, every, I shouldn't say every. I don't want to, surely there's some that don't, but the vast majority absolutely do. I played on the golf team, ironically, when I was in high school. So, but you're right. And you talk about the supporting part. There's a financial commitment there that these people are participating in it nationwide. So, and let's talk about the major players that are financial. We're way off of like archery, discussions, shooting and all that stuff, which is where we're good, but that's fine. But like Callaway, Ping, Nike, let's FootJoy. You go through all these companies that are being supplemented financially by all of these people across the nation who are competing in golf at the middle school, high school level. Yeah. So, where that funding is just going into golf. So then ultimately that's being seen at the top somewhere along the lines, because those companies can afford to throw that money into the ring and say, we're going to front this to happen because we're making money on the in the beginning of this cycle. You know what I mean? So, and archery doesn't have that.
Yeah. The brands themselves can even like for 6-figure salaries for their guys. And it's like, it's different level, it'd be the same as if Hoyt up, 10 guys, 100 grand each.
Yeah.
And it's like the sport of archery as a whole isn't big enough yet. So it's all a big circle that just, they feed into each other.
Oh yeah. I mean, imagine what your life would be like. Even if Hoyt, and we're using Hoyt because we both shoot for Hoyt, but it's not fair to assume that Hoyt has to do this. But we're saying, what if you take a sponsor that can throw out, dude, 50 grand? Like, imagine what that does for you for the year to be able to focus on just training, and what kind of stress that reduces from a shooter. And the compound world probably is set up for that a little bit more, but also like you have ASA, you have they have all the same competitions that we do. There's more compound shooters in the world, I would say openly shooting competitions than you see in especially Olympic recurve, but in Barebow specifically too. You have a lot of traditional archers out there, but it's not the same thing. There's definitely there's a gap for sure.
But and that's just, but it grows from the roots up, because then the kids that do this exact golf, then they want to become those pros. Where right now you maybe have a kid in archery that doesn't like want to really like, I don't want to be an Olympian, like I just want to go have fun, like but how can I do this later in life? And they say, well, I can't. Okay, done. And then they get a real person job, and then they just like work. And it's like, and that fell off. But that could have been the next best archer in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
you just described like my childhood in some ways. Like archery was my life until about 13 years old. JOAD, national competitions, all that stuff. And then, high school happened, and what happened? High school sports happened. Archery wasn't one of them. If archery was one of them, there's no doubt that I would have shot archery instead of playing golf, basketball, and track. I would have shot archery, or a combination of all of them. It's not a thing. I wish it was. There might be I don't know what the solution is. I'm hoping somewhere down the road we are able to come up with one. But yeah, you're 100% right.
Well,
So what's that?
it needs to come from everybody who's ever watching this. Like, if you can make a local club or make a local high school team, if you're in high school, or even younger, maybe, like, that roots everywhere will help grow the whole sport.
Yeah,
And that's what we need.
you guys heard it. Jack says go grow the sport. So if you're listening to this, and eventually you will be, or online or the recorded version, Jack says go grow the sport. So don't be sitting back on the couch being a bump in a log. Go do a thing. No, it's man, that's good. It's nice to hear somebody that's shooting at your level, like you're still concerned about that. I think sometimes you guys are a little bit removed and people don't get to hear that from you enough. For you're the pros. Everybody's like, oh, he's on our Olympic team, and they stand and watch you shoot, but don't realize like you still have that same passion as anybody else. And let's face it, that's how you got into the sport. It was just you tried archery one day and look where you're at. So that's good. That's a surprise conversation that wasn't planned by any means, but it was definitely a good one, and people need to hear it. So I do know you've been playing with the new riser and limbs.
Yep.
How's that working out for you? So tell us what you're shooting. What's your setup?
Yeah, so right now I'm shooting the Formula XD with the axial limbs. I made the switch over from a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually testing out the geometry of the XD for a while. So I've been kind of playing out. So I have a very good understanding of how the new bow was going to shoot and how it has been forward. Been had a nice hand in the prototype development of it. So it's really like good for what I was kind of asking for out of this setup and what it was kind of going to be.
Yeah.
So the new lower grip position, definitely more stable. I don't know how
Agreed.
other types of shooters, I can only speak for what I can feel, but hopefully it's more stable and much bigger sight window.
Yep.
I hope a lot of people feel that. The adjustable weights are really nice because you can go from top weight to bottom weight really easy. And that not only just changes like the weight balance, but it directly changes where it sits in relation to your hand.
Yeah.
By a few percent up above, like, and have your grip below the pivot point.
Yeah.
Or then have they were actually calibrated this time, and instead of just like it's a weight, like you put weight on your bow, like this was actually like, no, if you put it here, it'll be exactly even to your hand. If you put it here, it'll be above. If you here, it'll be below. So
interesting.
Yeah, there was intention behind it, and hopefully as more people start to shoot it, they can play with how they and have a bow that fits them more easily. If you want your bow to jump, the top weights are there to design that. And same with the dampeners in there, it dampens out some more of that riser flex.
Yep.
And you can just tune that jump out of your hand a lot better. The limbs, on the other hand, are a very different limb to the Velos. Ultimately, the biggest driving factor to that was the most durable yet high performing limb that was going to be out there. I think a lot of people have all seen what happened with the Velos, and while the Velos was still the very great limb that it was and highest scoring limb to date with Brady, and I shot that limb great, some people, or for whatever reason, had it just start breaking.
Yeah.
So that set aside, okay, how do we keep the same performance? Because ultimately you got to have a limb that performs, but if a limb is breaking, that's not performing very good, like once it's broken. So like the maple was very durable and yet still kept all those same features to it. And we played with the way it stacks a little bit. They stack a lot differently than a Velos. Some might like it. Some might, have to get used to it. I'm getting used to it because I've so tuned to the Velos. But as I'm starting to get through it, like it's something that I'm liking. I did have to actually down in poundage. I was shooting 42-pound Veloses. Now I'm shooting 40-pound Axios.
Okay.
That's just the way they stacked for me and the tune. Like the 40 pounds, just that was what I had to do to tune. So, maybe as more people start playing with that too, it's still a new it's still new. We haven't even had time to really throw it in a tournament. How does it shoot under pressure? What do we have to do to it? So it's very exciting,
Yeah.
and I'm learning about it, and I hope a lot of people can enjoy it too. Because
Yeah.
so far, I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's that. It was definitely an adjustment. I haven't shot a 70-inch bow in almost 3 years. So when Doug sent me the XD, I don't own any formula limbs. I was actually he didn't think he had limbs that I could use, but then he came up with a set of 36, I think they're 36-pound Axias. I'm like around 41 on the fingers, I think. I didn't check. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just going based off of like 2 pounds per inch at 31-inch draw. So but whatever that's gonna come out to be. But the riser, like it definitely there's a calmness to that riser. The dampeners absolutely positively work. I never shot the weights, never played with weights before in the pockets. To be completely honest, I put the 2 weights. I'm gonna play around with top and bottom and even and everything, and I know that the weights actually have an effect on. I was watching. I think it was Hoyt's video on YouTube, and Doug was talking about the weight distribution and how that changes the riser. I guess basically the way the riser sits, and when you add those weights, it's comparable to like the XI. The way that the weight distribution changes it so that it actually has like the same I don't know what the term is, if it's like the level, like the way it levels in your hand. I'm not sure you might have a better idea, but that the weight system allows that for that riser to be more adaptable to any shooter, whether you're putting the weights on the top, whether you're putting them in the bottom, whether you have one in each, and then and obviously you can play around with all the other stuff, other weights, other you can throw Yost weights on there. You can throw. I know you sent me a video. We were talking about dampeners and stuff, and you can put the dampeners on the limbs. You can put dampeners on the bow itself. Like there's a lot of options. You were talking. So before this, Jack's trying to talk me into putting a V-bar attachment on my bow and dampeners and weights off of it. So if you see something funny happening with my riser and I actually try that, it's Jack's fault. That's all I'm going to say.
Like a super mini stabilizer setup.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't see how we wouldn't be allowed to do it. I don't see how it would be illegal at all. Do just about anything now except for have actual stabilizers. Though I will say this though, shooting them side by side, going from a 73-inch, 27-inch riser and extra long limbs to 25-inch riser with long limbs, it is incredible how much calmer that riser and that setup is. It is very close to the 27. I'm happy with it right now. Like that's the bow I'm shooting. I don't really have any desire to shoot the 27. I really do like the way that shoots. I wish that there was extra long limbs, but I don't think they can do that in the formula.
That's what the extra long I left was, a
Yeah.
formula limb.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I wish that, but I don't have that length in the riser like I'm used to. And I really do like it. I'm 31 and a half inch roughly draw length. So, I can get away with that longer stuff. I like and what part of it is, Jack, is the string angle when you're crawling 3 under on that bottom finger really plays a big role. That longer recurve, it's so much more comfortable than a shorter one when you have that long draw length. But it's 6 of one, half dozen. Yeah, everybody's got their own perks or their own preferences and how they like the way it feels. But the dampening system, the new technology, the way it's going, I'm very happy. I am very happy with that riser. And just the setup in general, I think there's good things to come there. So you didn't get a chance. You just said you didn't get a chance to shoot a tournament with that yet. You were testing it. Did you get to compete with it or no?
No, I have not shot any sort of dedicated tournament. I've been shooting the lower geometry in
Yeah.
the rise on
Okay.
Velos. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
that was
So
I
you
knew
you had a separate riser that yeah, gotcha.
yeah. So that's what's been, but that's, and a lot of people noticed, like me, Casey, Brady, we were all shooting like different types of limbs because we just got to make sure that what comes out is really good, and we all kind of work together on this final product that
That's cool.
we all.
That's awesome. It's cool that Hoyt, I mean, I know Hoyt's notoriously done that, but they're reaching out to their athletes. They're reaching out to their shooters. They're like, hey, I need your feedback on this.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for the future. That's all I'm going to say. So you have to appreciate that they're taking all of your information, and Brady and Casey, and they're taking that feedback and putting it into a physical product for people to hopefully enjoy and get better at the sport with.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think they came out with such a versatile setup, is because you listen to one person and their advice on, hey, I think a bow should have this in it. You'll get that bow, and that'll shoot maybe good for that person if they were even right in what they were thinking. But if you listen to people, like, then you get like, okay, well, everybody's kind of wanting this, and then okay, here you go, and then it worked because everybody ended up being right. Those crazy ideas kind of get whittled down into, okay, well, why do they want that? And then oh well, that can be solved with a movable weight pocket or lower geometry, like that jump out of the hand, where then some people say, I don't want any jump. Like,
yeah,
how do you do that for both people out of the same bow?
Yeah, well, they did it,
and they
Doug Denton, everyone. Doug Denton did it.
Yeah,
that's all I could say. The guy's he's a bit of an archery genius. He's and he's just he's a nice guy. Doug's such a good dude. I think it's awesome. I'm glad that you got to. Is this the first riser that you really got to put your input into?
Yeah.
Good for you, man. How old are you?
22.
Yeah, you suck. Damn kids. No, dude, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. You're a good guy. You're a great ambassador for the sport. I hope that your career is very long, and if there's anything I can ever do, I'm small fish in a big pond, but I would always lend a hand, because I want nothing to see like you. So Casey is close to me. I've watched Casey grow up. I'm only an hour from Lancaster. So she's got a hell of a support cast, as you do too. But I love seeing these people just become successful and have these opportunities. And I love your ideas about growing the sport, and that view of that total view, that big picture view of like, what do we have to do to make things better? Like I appreciate that. And I love that such a young person, you don't come across as a 22-year-old when you talk about archery. And I think that's good. That's very good. And it's a testament probably to why you have been so successful. But to see to realize and to see your thoughts put out there for people, and to realize you think about the sport in such a deeper way, the equipment, growing the sport, being involved, training, all of those things. I think it sheds a light on what talent we do have in this country, and I want nothing more than to see you guys be successful. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Again, just so everyone knows, where can we follow you? I know you have an Instagram, stuff like that. Can you give us some details?
Yeah, Jack T. William 2000 on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm posting most of my stuff, and same with Jack Williams Archery on Facebook.
Okay.
So they do pages because they're owned by the same company or more or less the same. So whatever platform you're on, like that's where you'll get it. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be posting a lot more about the XD and all those little tips and tricks as I start to figure out more stuff. And hey, this bow needs this to shoot good. And I'll be keeping everybody updated on the little things.
Good. And I'm sure that Doug appreciates that as well. Perfect. Well, everyone go follow Jack Williams, follow his career. Good luck as you go to Santiago with our Barebow peeps that are going as well. I know we have 6 going from the US, so it's going to be a full house. First time we're going to see Barebow at that event, so it's exciting stuff for sure. Appreciate all you do, and that's it, man. Peace out.
Thank you.
All right, dude. See you later. Barrel Project out. Go follow Jack Williams. See ya. Oh, maybe. Oh, there it goes.